right, good morning. It's Tuesday morning on the Brushfire Mind. I hope everybody's doing well. Good morning, Bruno. Sup, gang? Great intro. I like these guys, brother. I appreciate it. Thanks for the kind words on the intro. I had a quick word on the intro. Both of those shots are from short films we've done. The first one is Cameron Anderson playing the part of the hunted intel analyst in the very short film, the Kingmaker Saga, which is a little short film we did as a proof of concept for a series concept that we want to work on, and that's one that I'm developing, hopefully to pitch for production. And then the second shot, the shot of me standing there and flipping my trench coat back to reveal that pistol. That's the second episode of the SpaghettiOs series. We've only done 2 of those. We kind of fell off on production with those with the COVID thing, and then this summer, of course, when we had production time, we shot another short film, which is still a work in progress. It's a slog post-production. Anyway, this morning, what I want to talk about is we're going to be talking a little bit about the cancel culture thing, but really we're going to look at one particular case. Gina Carano. I'll just go ahead and get straight into it. I've got one article pulled up. We're going to look at it, and we're going to look at a few of the tweets that are referenced in it. So here's the headline there: The Mandalorian and Deadpool star Gina Carano under fire for transphobic joke. So Gina Carano, she played Angel Dust in Deadpool, in the first Deadpool movie. She was the superpowered chick that she had a nip slip in the fight with Piotr Petrovich. Colossus, the big metal guy, and you got that fantastic scene where they're fighting, they're beating the crap out of each other, and she has a breast pop out, and to just really drive home the whole Boy Scout image of Colossus. You've got that moment where, the one boob pops out, and they're mid-fight. They're hitting each other with cars, and suddenly you have Colossus go, "Oh, sorry, you're exposed." He's all embarrassed and shy about it. And she's, "Oh, well, that's sweet." And she fixes her shirt and then just proceeds to beating on him. Well, I'll be honest. I've liked the characters she's played. Obviously, Angel Dust in Deadpool, as I've just described. And then she played, she's in The Mandalorian. And it looked, apparently her character recurs in Mandalorian season 2, which I ain't gonna lie, I'm looking forward to. I've got some qualms about Disney. I have enjoyed Mandalorian as a production, and I'm very much looking forward to the second one. And there are enough problems with Disney right now, and the infection of woke culture with Disney, that I want to cancel. I've got Disney Plus, and there's a big part of me that wants to cancel it, and similar with Netflix. But like Disney Plus, they have all the good Saturday morning a lot of the good Saturday morning cartoons that I watched when I was a kid. And okay, this is a tangent I hadn't intended, but I'll keep it quick. Gummy Bears, Darkwing Duck, DuckTales, Tailspin. And watching them again with my kids. I've got 4 kids, 10 and under. Compared to the garbage that's being produced now, I mean, Fee and I my wife and I were watching. We're sitting down to watch a little TV the other day, and we saw the recommended. I didn't even catch the title of the show, but there was one that was recommended for the kids. Right, you turn on the TV, and the kids were watching TV earlier, and so it's still on one of their profiles. There's this character recommended for them, and looking at it, it's a cartoon character, and looking at it, I'm like, wow, that character is really just it's just assembled from a collection of penises. I don't know. And it's so much of this garbage is so blatant. I'm holding on to Disney Plus because, with all the other problems, I'd rather my kids be watching the Gummy Bears and Darkwing Duck and all that than any of this other crap. Right? So, there's that. I got one little piece of house cleaning that I need to handle real quick before while I'm noticing it. But yeah, anyway, so what has happened here is Gina made a comment, or not even a comment. I'm sure many of you are at least relatively familiar with the Twitter trend where people are listing their pronouns. He, hers, his, she, hers, he, him. They list their pronouns in their profile, and it's not just trans people who do this. It's trans allies. So there's a whole nother trail to go down on the transgender issue, but let's talk about what happened here. Gina Carano gained a new legion of fans after her performance as shock trooper turned mercenary Cara Dune in The Mandalorian. Fantastic character, by the way. I mean, and it was a good episode. She's in. I think she's only in the one episode in season 1. And if you haven't watched Mandalorian, it's quite good. Joss Whedon may be a garbage human being, but he gave us Firefly, and the space western was a step in the right direction for creative media. The Mandalorian takes a lot from that aesthetic concept that's just absolutely beautiful. So you may have noticed a trend for people stating their gender identity and preferred pronoun as part of their Twitter bio, declaring he, him, she, her, they, them, or whichever combination they feel is most applicable to them. If you're unfamiliar with the practice, its intent is to, this is important here, there's a couple of things right here. Its intent is to normalize such statements so when trans, non-binary, intersex, and gender fluid I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that that's supposed to be gender fluid. That the word they were trying to use was gender fluid. Let's see. Andrew Marshall. Dear Andrew Marshall, you're an idiot, and you need to hire a copywriter, a copy editor. Okay, but so its intent is to normalize such statements so when trans, non-binary, intersex, and gender fluid people feel comfortable revealing themselves to be so, stating how they would like to be referred to can be seen as something standard and not aberrant or confusing. See, normalize not aberrant or confusing. There is not a scenario under which you stating that reality is not reality, outside of the production of fiction and fantasy art and media, there is not a scenario where this sort of activity is not aberrant or confusing. Now, the word aberrant, we're talking about the word aberrant as an aberration, not abhorrent as in abhorrible. This is not a word that refers to hatred or disgust. The word aberrant, we're talking about something being outside of the normal. No matter what your anecdotal experience is, the fact of the matter is that the trans, non-binary, intersex, gender fluid, the entire collection of those descriptors describes a segment of the population that is not 0.3%. That is not to say that the small number of people that suffer from these conditions or confusions do not deserve some compassion, don't need help, should not be a target of concern. It is not to say that. However, the fact of the matter is, that's not what's happening. We're not giving these people a reasonable amount of concern and deliberation. Rather, we are upsetting entire segments of our society and offering unreasonable concessions at the expense of the 99.7% of the rest of the world here. This is, you're facing the trolley problem. There's a trolley coming down the track. There's one person that you know on the side of the track that the trolley's going to go down. There's four people that you don't know. I'm sorry, there's four people you don't know on the side of the track that the trolley's going to go down, and there's one person that you do know. And the question that's posed is, in order to save the four strangers, do you switch the track and sacrifice the one? Let's take out the familiarity. Do you switch the track and sacrifice the one? And it's a thought experiment for a moral argument of utilitarianism. Is it okay to cause the death of one person in order to save four lives? That's the question that's posed by the trolley question. And for the trans activists, the alphabet people, the LGBTQ activists, their answer to the question is, I'm going to jump out in front of the trolley with a knife that I could easily use to free all five people and therefore save everybody. And I'm going to use that knife to just stab them before the trolley gets there. That's what this kind of crap is. It's people choosing to actively subjugate the majority of the population to the whim of an unreasonable, bigoted minority. So what did Gina do that was so wrong? Gina Carano, however, has instead added boop bop beep after her name on Twitter, which is being perceived as mocking the practice. And okay, this sentence could have been perfectly fine. This sentence could have been perfectly fine, reasonable, a statement of fact if it read like this. Carano, however, has instead added beep, boop bop beep after her name on Twitter, which is being perceived as mocking the practice, and I'm going to skip a word, has resulted in people calling her out on it. That would be a statement of pure fact. She added boop bop beep after her name on Twitter, and this is being perceived by people. So that's a reporting of fact. There are people who are of the opinion, right, that this is mocking, and they are calling her out on it. Those are all facts. And this writer has in a shocking development from these leftist journos, has actually provided some evidence. Now, it's biased evidence. It's all for his side evidence. But then he drops that word understandably in there. It's understandable that people should take what is at best a satirical comment and construe it to be, as you're going to see as we move through this article, an act of hatred. I mean, some of these people are accusing her of committing violence against people with her silly little boop bop beep joke. It's a silly little joke from a Star Wars nerd. And here you go. So we're gonna look at some of the tweets from these people, and talk about them a little bit. So, shitty Star Wars posts. So Gina Carano spoke to Pedro Pascal, who explained pronouns and why people have them in their names, and Gina decided to mock that. She really is trash. So here's the comment she made. Okay, this right here, Gina Carano, boop bop beep. That's what she's getting the hate for. That's what she's getting lambasted for. Is this little piece right here, boop bop beep, right? So let's take a peek. See. Trans rights forever and always. Pedro Pascal, he, him. Pedro, we can see that you're a man. Which means that your he, him, your little he, him thing here is a pure virtue signal. Okay? That's adorable. Stop it. But, okay. Gina Carano can be openly hateful and transphobic, but John Boyega has to be afraid of being fired for going to a Black Lives Matter protest. What is wrong with this picture? Nothing is wrong with this picture. She made a joke which is amusing. It's silly. It's cute. She didn't say anything derogatory to anyone. Mr. Kitty, she, her here, who, you know, okay, here's one for you. You got your she, her, right? And we look at this picture, assuming this is a picture of the person who owns this Twitter account. Yeah, this person is, at a glance, I would say this is a man. Given the name and the she, her, coupled with that picture, I think we're looking at an effeminate man who is some kind of trans. But I mean, we can see that this person's a terrorist. You have the Black Lives Matter post right there. This person's a terrorist. And going after somebody. Gina Carano can be openly hateful and transphobic. What? There's no hate there. Okay? But John Boyega has to be afraid of being fired for going to a Black Lives Matter protest. What is wrong with this picture? Nothing's wrong with this picture. Yes, John Boyega should be afraid of getting fired because he attended a Black Lives Matter protest. Here's the difference. If you have an employer and you are actively engaged, publicly and actively engaged in not only political statements, but terrorism, sedition, treason, and open armed insurrection, if you are actively supporting a movement whose accolades now include multiple high property damage arsons and multiple targeted assassinations, targeted politically motivated assassinations, you're a terrorist. Or at least you're, in John Boyega's case, I'll be as gentle as to say you are supporting a terrorist organization. I'll take that just a step further. If you're somebody like John Boyega, somebody who is famous, has a huge following on social media, and is spreading a message that is actively attracting financial support to open insurrectionists committing acts of murder, arson, terror, and treason on the streets of the United States of America, you are in clear violation of the definition of treason under Article 3, Section 3 of the Constitution. You are providing aid and comfort to the enemies of the United States of America. You are doing so with more than 3 live eyewitnesses, and you should be treated accordingly. At the barest minimum, you should be concerned that your job is at risk because you are a criminal. But under the Constitution, you should be executed for your crimes. Hey, I've got guys watching live, I've got a little reminder popping off in the lower right corner there. Is it super loud when it goes off? Because I'm actually not getting it in my monitor right now. So y'all let me know in the live comments there if that's popping off real loud, and I just turned it down some just in case, but I think it's blowing through a little bit hot. So let me know about that. And we'll keep going. Well, turns out Gina Carano is pretty ignorant. Oh? Tim the Enchanter? I see you're a Monty Python fan, or perhaps a Magic the Gathering nerd. Or both. You find plenty of people who are Monty Python fans that who don't even know what Magic the Gathering is. You will not find a great number of Magic the Gathering players who have not watched all of the Monty Python a lot. Raise your hand if Gina Carano killed your hype for Season 2 of The Mandalorian in any capacity. I'm trying to see something. Oh, Blake the villain. You know, I still like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. But Johnny Depp should be in prison right now for threatening to murder the president. Gina Carano claims to understand why put pronouns in their bio. Also Gina Carano. Okay. Aren't you cute? Doubling down on her transphobia and showing how much of a toxic asshole she is. Going to loathe every single minute she's on screen. So don't watch it, Mr. Braddington. Just don't watch it, Dick Burger. You know, JKR about to make... Okay, J.K. Rowling about to... Jesus. Ugh. Oh, my God. Okay. This character here, this person, Eddie Nigmas Flop era... Oh... You've got an improperly capitalized, unpunctuated set of initials about to make up. Where are your verbs? Where are your articles? Where's your... Eddie, you are clear evidence that the public education system should be abolished because it's doing more harm than good and at great expense to the taxpayer. Steve, you said yes. I'm assuming that's to the it's too loud thing. So, okay. Let me fix that. I'm gonna be distracted for a second while I fix that. Oh well. I thought I was going to fix it off screen, but apparently then it switches over to my other screen set, so that doesn't work. Okay. That should help a lot, because I want it to just be kind of just barely there. I want it to get your attention, but not distract. It's a work in progress. So, Gina Carano's transphobic, so I will only be watching The Mandalorian for Pedro Pascal and Pedro Pascal alone. Okay, Carly. That's... Rise of Skywalker was the worst thing to happen to Star Wars. Gina Carano, hold my beer. The Rise of Skywalker was the worst thing to happen to Star Wars. That's cute. Okay, so anyway, basically we're down that rabbit hole. Here's the thing on the whole trans issue. I have been reluctant to talk about any of the alphabet soup people on this show. And that's largely because I have a lot of family and friends, and I have close family and close friends who fall into the LGBTQ grouping. Many of them are big Trump supporters. For one, because Donald Trump is the only president who has ever run for the office, who has never run on the traditional marriage ticket. Donald Trump has run exactly one presidential campaign prior to the current one. So the first presidential campaign he ran back in 2016 was his first political campaign. And he did not run on traditional marriage. He said, look, Obergefell has decided, that's over and done. It's not something that we need to spend time on. My position on the question of gay marriage has always been, this isn't hard. It is not that one should ask the question whether or not homosexuals should be allowed to marry one another and have a same-sex union. That should never have been the question. The question should only ever have been, does the government have the authority or any business at all to be licensing and regulating marriage between consenting adults? Because marriage, what we're talking about when you say marriage, there's a spiritual component to it, but as far as the law is concerned, you're talking about a voluntary contract between two informed consenting parties of the age of majority. A voluntary contract between consenting parties. Under the Constitution, there's not a reasonable argument to be made that I cannot enter into a contract with another consenting adult where I offer him a large sum of money with which he can do as he likes in exchange for his allowing me to murder him in front of a camera. That's an extreme example and a hypothetical, and it's not something I've done or would probably entertain. But the point is, a voluntary contract between informed consenting individuals of the age of majority is a contained and sovereign entity wherein the government has absolutely no legitimate authority or concern. The same is true of marriage. However, on the question of gay marriage, we went from early 90s. I'm paraphrasing Mario Romano here. We went from, late 80s, mid 90s, consenting adults should be allowed to do what they like in their bedrooms, to now it's 2020, cuties. See, the minute Obergefell was decided, it was time for the enemy left to find another champion du jour to just shove down people's throats. So we went from the question of whether or not two people of the same sex could get married immediately to whether or not a 50-year-old man who identifies as a 6-year-old girl has the legal obligations and responsibilities and entitlements of a 6-year-old girl based on his personal identification. So we're talking about altering the treatment of a person under law based exclusively for the purposes of practical application and realistic observation, based exclusively on their outward appearance. And this stuff like this, where people are attacking Gina Carano, let's say that this is a legitimate, reasonable issue, and she has a question of any kind, or makes a mistake. You're just going to attack. This is one of the reasons of this is one of the reasons that this issue and other issues like it are going to be so difficult to move forward. The left doesn't, the progressives, the progressing people, the progressives are not interested in solutions or even treatments of problems. They don't want to have conversations about them. They want to shut down the conversation. And they're completely anti-science on these issues. We're talking about people who are currently suggesting that not only should puberty blockers and genital mutilation be made available as medical treatments to children as young as 4, but that it should be done so at your taxpayer expense. And the science on that shows us that those people have a higher rate of suicidality than Nazi concentration camp prisoners or black chattel slaves did. And that is without respect to the status of treatment, whether they have been transitioned or not, whether they've been transitioned or not. That suicide rate is exorbitant, and you don't find that in any other category of person. Not even schizophrenics, not even clinically suicidal schizophrenics have that higher rate. But what you do find is that nearly 90% of all children who express concerns or feelings of gender dysphoria grow out of it. That's a big deal. So when you're talking about whether or not to dump hormone blockers into your kids, ask yourself this question. Are you going to take the 90% odds that with a little counseling, the problem resolves itself, or are you going to buck the almost 50% odds that ends in suicide without counseling? That you just go on down the route with the drugs and all the politics of it, and you traded your 90% chance of dealing with a problem responsibly. You traded that away to the nattering mob that doesn't want to have the conversation. You traded away your 90% success rate that didn't include a high probability of suicide for a 50% suicide. It's like 43, 46%, but it's almost half. And they don't want to have the conversation. There's an important question to be asked. And I think the answer to this question is multivariant across case-by-case basis. But the question to be asked is gender dysphoria or transgenderism? But maybe there should be two different names for it, because here's the question. Is this a mental disorder, or is this a physical deformity? Or is it both? Or is it that case by case, it's one, the other, or both? Because the claim, when a person says that they are transgender, they are making the claim either that they have a female/male brain in a body of the opposite gender, that they think like one gender but are physically the other, or they're making the opposite claim where it's either your mind doesn't match your situation or your body doesn't match your situation. So if it's actually a physical deformity, which would actually be intersex. Let's say you're born and you're mostly female, but you have a penis. That's a thing that happens. It happens at an extremely low frequency. You have a higher genetic probability of being born with 3 thumbs, but by the way, that's not a hyperbolic statement. Just that's well, yeah. You have a higher probability of being born with webbed feet. That's a statistical fact. But the reason the question's important is every case of transgenderism or gender dysphoria, is the correct treatment genital mutilation and reconstructive surgery? I'm actually highly suspicious that that's the correct treatment, that's ever the correct treatment, because there's a lot there. But is it possible that gender reassignment surgery isn't the correct treatment for every case? Is it possible that counseling is the correct treatment for some cases and gender? But they don't want to have that conversation. And if you can't have the conversation, if you won't have an honest conversation about it, then how are you ever going to develop a solution? How are you ever going to produce solutions to problems that you will not discuss? You're not. It's not going to happen. And those of us on the right, we will never be able to produce solutions. You know, we could engage in the discussion amongst ourselves, but even if we could discuss it to the ends of the earth, we could bring in medical professionals, use extreme sets of data, study the problem absolutely to death, come up with a very, very reasonable solution, and that solution will not get implemented because As long as that solution is not, you should give more tax money. You should dump more tax money into these people for no discernible reason. As long as that's not your solution, it won't make it past the radical left-wing mob. They're not interested in solutions to problems. They're interested in extortion. That's what they're doing. They're extorting money from the American taxpayer. I'm going to leave it there. Y'all be safe, and I will see you tomorrow morning.